Welcome, everyone, once again. Thank you so much for making the time to discuss the future of Shell Alumni. Well, this is for me one of those moments where it's just really good that I've been brought up in an optimistic environment, because when you hit an obstacle that you personally can't quite manage away and kind of deal with it as an individual, it's so important to open up and listen to other people, other voices, other thoughts, to really generate that creativity and leverage other people's views to actually shape the future of Sun. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. So the objective here is to bring you up to speed to where we are, from where we started and where we are today, and then look ahead at the future. Let me show you how the agenda looks like. We have set aside 1.5 hours, but I really want to compress it into 1 hour for most people. And those who would like to stay on for some further discussion can definitely remain on the call. And in total, I have 1.5 hours to discuss today, and there's 3 more sessions. So history first, taking stock of where we are today. Then we have some good conversation time. And then we're going to look at what are those options that we could see for the future. And what are your ideas in terms of what's driving most value for Shell Alumni? Hope the agenda is clear so far, and let's just get going. So I'm going to start with the history. Somebody recently quoted Alan Matula with a beautiful quote, and I think it really is applicable here. So let's take a moment to admire the problem before rushing into action, he said. And this is a beautiful way of looking at things positively, which is very much what we want to do. So I left Shell myself in 2016. And as many of you, I'm sure, I also realized after a few weeks and months that the quality of the people that I used to work with in Shell has really been second to none. And in some ways on a different level than the other people I'm working with today, who are equally wonderful, and I really appreciate the input as well. Can you please put yourself on mute kindly? So yeah, it's really the level of intellect, the human qualities, the leadership, the aspiration of always taking everyone along, making sure things are sustainable, could go on for a while. The quality is really extraordinary. And I was looking for ways to stay connected other than LinkedIn, which is very superficial, obviously. And what I found were 2 things: the social media networks. There are hundreds of them out there. And then there are retiree organizations in the Netherlands, UK, in the US, but there's a few more. And both of those are very much looking at history. And I was looking for something that was looking at the future. Also, there was kind of something obvious in relation to Shell, as Shell needs to reinvent itself. They may be interested to also hear what alumni have been up to and what they are doing in their new networks. And the other way around, of course, we still care for what Shell does, and we want to know maybe just a little bit more than the average newspaper reader. So it felt like a no-brainer. And so I really worked out some kind of proposal to suggest to Shell that they should be starting an alumni network. And the first attempt was February 2019. And what I learned was that a few other attempts had been made trying to talk Shell into setting up a Shell alumni network. And the consistent answer they have decided for themselves was that is not a good idea for Shell. They said it's obviously great for alumni to meet and talk. By all means, go ahead. However, for Shell, it is nothing that they feel they should be going into. The responsibility of Shell is to make sure there's a good, ethical, responsible trajectory for having people leave the company. And that's where the relationship stops. And that could not really be the end of the story from my point of view, but that's really where they were. And I started to engage with a few more people and just thought, this can't be it. Let me retry. And I did. I did that in February 2020, just before Corona was widely known. And to my very pleasant surprise, things had changed a little bit. They had done some benchmarking around other companies and corporations and found that there's also use for Shell itself probably to have alumni networks. And they had realized that there's so many alumni networks out there that actually running that themselves would be quite an effort, and it's not their core business. So therefore they said, if you want to set it up, please move forward with your ideas, bring a group together, keep us up to date. So under the provision that you are compliant with the brand guidelines, and if you are transparent to Shell on what you're doing, we're happy to endorse you to set up a global alumni network for Shell. And that's exactly what happened. So a couple of people here on the call have been part of that early team. 25 alumni worked tirelessly together in this first half of 2020 to create Shell Alumni. And I must say they must have done a good job, because it's pretty much what we aspired it to be. It's, I think, 3-4 times bigger in terms of the activity levels. So great job was done there. And in June 2020, we started as a social enterprise. And that was needed because Shell said, we cannot commit to any funding, so you need to make sure you generate your own. And so that is where this whole membership fee part comes from, which was approved and transparent to Shell. We are independent. There's no Shell governance. We have a license agreement of 15 pages, and it confirms the use of the word Shell Alumni Network and shellalumni.org as a web space, which we own. We have certain activities, and we have a way of working with Shell, which makes that we are meeting once a month to talk about everything that will happen in the next couple of weeks, or the program that we are putting on. And obviously we have all those things that we put out on LinkedIn, for example, checked for compliance with the brand. So we really learned how that goes. And every single LinkedIn post is first looped through the Shell brand approval pipeline. So, and it works really well, actually. They're very easy to work with. So that is where we are when we got started. So a couple of things you also are aware of what was created, number of members, the global coverage, the activity levels, also links with other networks that we have, the networks, and maybe also good to know that in April this year only, but still we got the pectin approved, which is a big deal really from a Shell point of view, I mean. So that's where we got so far. And then things started to get into more difficult waters, because we started to see that the activity levels within Shell Alumni were growing and growing. So clearly we had found something that's very of interest, that there was a need for Shell Alumni to engage. So that takes a lot of time from the core team as well. That also we would see a reshape taking place in 2021. And also, last but not least, we felt there was a lot of kind of running behind of all those spaces that are maybe on a lower income level. So we structurally had a problem with the fact that we had a lot of presence from alumni from NL, UK, US, but where are all those colleagues from Nigeria, from the Asian parts of the world, and so forth. So we felt we had an almost ethical need to change our membership fee structure and allow them to have a membership fee of 30 euros, where everyone else is at 99 euros, which obviously doesn't help our income stream. So as you see on number 6, we increasingly felt there was a tension with what the values we are providing, clearly a proven concept. So we went to Shell and started to ask them if there was some contribution they would like to make. Because they do also contribute to other organizations, and we'll talk about that later. And we said we really want to do that before 1st of August, because 1st of August was the implementation of Reshape. And we really started to bang a little bit on their door with RDSHR, but also with Martin Wetzler, saying, guys, let's get our act together. Let's agree how we can work together. And we kind of brought it on ourselves from that point of view, because we were not easily just allowing things to slip. We heard in July that they would not be able to make 1st of August for some kind of agreement because they were overworked. There was also still research going on with regard to what all those alumni networks are out there, need more time. And in the end of the day, they agreed on a workshop in September of 2 hours. That would be the first real engagement about Shell Alumni. And before that workshop was taking place, they already informed us that the final decision had been taken, that there would be no funding to Shell Alumni. And this has been, I think, repeated by now 4 times. They also said, we want Sun to thrive. And they also said that they're working on some kind of Shell Alumni strategy to position themselves with regard to all the alumni networks out there. So curious, we were of course curious on how they would want us to thrive without any kind of funding. So we had another meeting in October to think ahead together on how we could relate. And that's when they, for the first time, clarified that they have a plan within RDSHR to set up their own alumni network. So the final decision, to be really clear, is only due in December. But clearly some decisions have already been taken, like not engaging with us, with funding at least. And they also had identified that they can do it themselves. They have existing IT systems and that they will implement it in February onwards. So that is kind of the short story of where we historically have built up. And obviously that is a very unexpected turn on the road. So I have 2 more slides to share, then I want to open up for some discussion. So just to take stock on where we are today with regard to our own house, as well as our relationship with Shell. So we have 3 pillars that we are built on, as we hopefully all know on this call by now: the connecting the community, the learning, and the opportunities. In the connecting the community space, 1,150 people have joined our platform, completely global. We have seen a nice uptake, an increase of uptake in the lower income countries. We're very happy we did that. We also are an informal network of networks. So those people who are marked in yellow on that left-hand side, those are leaders in other networks, like the SPA, like the Fuchs, like the Smiles, and many others. So those leaders are active contributors in our network, and clearly shows that there is a synergy, because those other networks usually either have a completely local focus. Maybe people can put themselves on mute, so we have a good sound quality, thanks. So they're completely local. Many alumni networks have that link to pension funds, obviously, or they are international, like social media networks, but they have no activities. So there is clearly something that we feel that doesn't exist yet. We also have a huge social media presence, 4 posts per week usually, sometimes a bit more, and they reach between 5,000 views and sometimes 35,000 and sometimes even more. So it is a lot of positive why we're putting out there that Shell benefits from. And many influencers are in our team, and they're active and really interested in what we're doing. And these are the exact same influencers that Shell, I'm sure, would also like to engage with. So learning and development, 200 webinars we will have by the end of the year. We were set up to have 50. That was our expectation. And some people thought we would never ever reach 50, but we are clearly beyond that. And that comes from those networks. We have 17 at this point in time, and there are 3 more that are planned to be developed. And they're very active and completely led by the volunteers. And then we are providing more and more opportunities, self-help opportunities through the database, like, for example, 380 mentors that we hopefully will also be able to provide to other companies eventually. We are working on something with the Shell Foundation here in the background. Too early to announce anything, but just know this is a wealth of opportunities for people also to find purpose and continue to do what they're good in. We have webinars and best practices for businesses and NGOs, and we have job opportunities, investment opportunities. Recently, a first pitch of one of the Shell Alumni startups, and increasingly an interest to form projects together, for example, around researching a specific topic. And now at the point number 4 on the bottom, the fundamentals. So we have a core team of 6 people, and 3 of them are heavily working on Shell Alumni to make sure everything is streamlined. And it really is streamlined on the backside. So the network leaders are meeting every 2 weeks to make sure we exchange best practices, just 30 minutes, but it works really well on the backside. And maybe good to know that everything around our financial model has been agreed with the 25 startup alumni, so to speak. It's also in our annual report, and it says clearly that our break even will only be at 2,500 members. So there's no money being made really by anyone, and certainly not by myself. And this is a social enterprise, and it will take a lot of more kilometers on our road to get to some positive financials. So that is exactly where the news from Shell is now putting us into difficulties. The last slide before the discussion starts. So what really do we know about this RDS initiative and how we relate to each other? So we have a license agreement, 15 pages, and it confirms the name, Shell Alumni Network, the pectin, the website, which is an important thing because everything we do is linked to that website. Activities have also been clearly agreed, and the purpose of Shell Alumni. So all of that is really solidly in place. And there's a 3 months notice for ending the license agreement. And there's no consequences to that. Shell has already informed us that they would not want us to use Shell Alumni Network as a term. And so, yeah, we don't know what will happen, but there's definitely a possibility that they may end the license agreement. Funding, we have repeatedly heard that there will not be funding for Shell Alumni, and we know that there is substantial funding, for many years, forever, to pensioners' organizations, and that's more than 500,000 euros per year. They often also have some financial kind of savings account that is also substantial. We have nothing at all, and we will not get anything as far as we hear. Our only income are the membership fees, and that is what you can calculate by yourself, I guess. If Shell Alumni was to generate additional revenues, for example, by organizing an energy transition conference, we would need to pay royalties to Shell, we've learned in the conversation in October, like any other licensee. And thirdly, so what do we know about Shell's own initiative? The final decision will only be taken in December. and the implementation will be February onwards. Well, so we know RDS HR is very much in the lead. It is the VP for integrated resourcing. It's based on a lot of research. Definitely, we've seen them also asking some first questions in September 2020. So it's been going on forever, but it's taken a long time with everything else going on, I suppose. They do have systems like Salesforce and Adobe that would be able to be used for a alumni program within Shell. We don't know very much. We have a couple of slides, which we're not authorized to share. We've asked them to summarize in their own words, and they asked us, well, they told us that they will not engage and share before that final decision has been reached. So there's nothing I can share with you that has the voiceover from RDS. Unfortunately, we've tried very much. And there seems to be a limited interest to collaborate with us. And we keep trying because it seems like, again, a no-brainer to utilize what we've learned so far. So this is the moment where it's maybe good to have a bit of a discussion. I'd probably limit that to 10 minutes. So we have also some breakout groups later on to then discuss and get your voices broader on the table, because obviously we could talk forever until this about this topic. So let me ask you to raise your hand to come in and just like Riette just has been doing. Thank you so much, Riette, and kick into the discussion if you want. Great ads, Geriane. And I'm conscious of time and move us forward to the future part, because we really don't want to get stuck in any kind of cynicism or negativity, but I don't hear that, so that's just fabulous. But really think about how can we prepare in this time of uncertainty and what we kind of think may unfold. So first of all, again, various scenarios are possible. Yeah, so Shell may decide after all to work together. There is a scenario that Shell develops a brilliant, thriving network that delivers huge value, and that there is a chance of that, but also the opposite could happen, and that it's more like a distribution list, for example. Or Shell maybe even through what we are communicating and showing what we already have, which they may not have realized, maybe they actually decide that it's not a good idea to go into that space after all. And there are more scenarios. So in all of this, we believe there's two things that we really could be focusing on as a kind of simple underpinning thought. Do we know we should persevere because that's the kind of red and yellow vibe is what we want and what we want to build on? Or should we maybe pivot and think about our network as the nucleus of a much wider network that is also looking at the broader energy industry? And I realized that the second option may be further away from your bed today than the left-hand one. So I really would like to bring this to life a little bit, and then we're gonna split up into breakout groups so you can discuss these things a little bit. So here are those two scenarios spelled out. On the left-hand side, the one that you know better. So let me just start with the Shell Alumni. So we are independent and we remain independent. There's Shell Alumni governance. The members are clearly the Shell Alumni themselves. We may open it up a little bit to help ourselves with growing the membership fee, growing fee income as well. The funding is entirely on membership fees at the moment, but we could consider to organize activities in some shape or form. And if Shell decides to pull the license fee, we could still do that, calling ourselves Sun, for example. Partnership opportunities, probably difficult in that scenario. We've tried quite a bit to talk to other companies to sponsor us. And their next question was always, and what does Shell do financially? How do they contribute? And that makes it a really poor discussion then, because they would expect, if we are a network of value, that Shell contributes something. So eligibility is, something that is a lot of work. Please realize every single person is checked by us, so that we have a safe network, but it's clear, at least on the left-hand side. And the vibe is obviously very warm and connected because people know each other from the past, or they make new friends, which is happening a lot as well. And that's something we're most proud of, that it's not just relationships of the past. But let's also look seriously at the option on the right-hand side. And I really would like you to kind of stretch your thoughts, because I know that's not where we are at the moment, but could there be a logical move towards a brand agnostic energy industry network? And I just took a visual that recently appeared about the broad spectrum of energy companies, just oil and gas. And there's obviously all those other renewable companies that are being added, that may be on a different scale, I suppose. But there's obviously an industry that is going through huge change. And that could be also an interesting option to consider. Where members could be anyone in the energy industry. There's a platform that would really also need to ensure the governance is open to other companies. So that's not a Shell show, but there would need to be in the supervisory board, for example, other companies being represented. It would help us to generate income from membership fees as well as from partners in the energy sector. Yeah, we're sure that there could be something like an eligibility check in terms of a clearinghouse or reputation checking or whatever. We would need to figure that out. And surely, if you have a really well-functioning networks and you corral around themes that you all care for, I could give you many examples, but if it's a professional or leadership type topic that people really care for, of course, you will eventually build relationships and it would warm up. So just to bring it to life a little bit, because now we're going to break up into small breakout groups. We will not have 15 minutes, so 10 minutes is what we will have. And then we will come back and hear from your thoughts on those two questions that are up here at the moment. So we will aggregate everything. We will digest it in the supervisory board as the kind of think tank to decide in the end of the day, because any strategic decisions needs to be done on that level. We also probably have a sharing moment, a discussion moment with the community leaders, because it's really about kind of settling in all those many thoughts and ideas also around activities we may want to add through some of those discussions. And then we hope to finalize that in December, but we are also dependent a bit on what Shell is enabling in terms of discussion space. So we suggested, why can we not join the discussion in December? Maybe we can find some space that we share and where we can just have something new on the table that we can discuss. We would be very ready for that. And we also invited Shell, for example, to voice over their thoughts in a webinar at Shell Alumni. So we see that as a connected space. So we continuously keep you updated, Brigitte. We also try to kind of chunk it down into 2-3 options or decisions and a rationale underneath for either an interim kind of situation or for the final kind of different model that we may want to start by 1st of January. I have no idea what it is going to be, but it's a moving space. At least you are all aware about that one now. All right, thanks so much. And I'll check the chat later on if there's specific things we haven't discussed. I'll get back to you separately. Thanks for now.